Welcome back to the Chargers Check-In. We're talking about Omarion Hampton and what to expect from his return off of IR. Had a very long break. He took even longer over the bye, and he didn't have to be on IR this long. They could have brought him back after 4 weeks, but things didn't progress as they'd hope, and it is what it is, right? Well, Kamani Vidal had an incredible week against the Raiders. Just incredible. So many of his yards came after contact. Just an awesome job from the second-year player. And the Raiders are a bad team, but the one thing that they're usually pretty solid at is run defense. Kamani Vidal made them look really horrible at that. Kamani Vidal is a great running back. But when Omarion Hampton's back, he's running back one, right? You don't take a guy in the first round and go, well, this other guy's good, so screw that guy's potential, right? That's not what they're going to do. The Chargers love this player. Kamani Vidal is most successful running on the outside. He hasn't been super successful running up the middle, though occasionally he can get some momentum. If the initial block is there, he does really well. And that's something that Omarion Hampton might be more built to deal with. I don't think Omarion Hampton is magically going to be able to make running up the middle work. He will be more successful, I think, on short yardage situations. So I do think he kind of built in has a lot more carries in that sense. There is a shot that they want to bring him back slowly. I would guess because they opened his practice window last week, and we saw footage of him practicing, no braces on anything. So I would guess that they just saw it as, let's save him next week for a tougher game, and let's just trust Kamani Vidal with this one. And obviously that worked out really well. I think he is going to be healthy and ready to go as a full participant. I don't think he's going to be on a snap count so much as I really think that you can't take the ball out of Kamani Vidal's hands entirely. So I would guess that they're going to split the handoffs. They're going to split the time. One of the things they talked about last year when they had J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards was, we're going to feed the hot hand. There's no running back one. We just feed the hot hand. And then it turns out Gus Edwards never had the hot hand. And Kamani Vidal right now is the hot hand, but he hasn't had the consistency to where you're like, okay, you have to give it to him every time. Omarion Hampton showed a lot in his first few games, and we'll get into that. But I would expect Omarion Hampton gets at least 15 carries. And he can be out there on pass sets too. His pass protection is awesome. Same is true for Kamani Vidal. And so I understand they may want to split on that as well. But the Chargers believe in Omarion Hampton. They love this guy. And they should. Both are generally great in pass protection. Both break tackles. Both are fast in open space and great through contact. And I do think going forward, Omarion Hampton is running back one. So beyond just the Eagles game, I think we should understand him to be the running back who's going to get most of the handoffs in the future. And I don't know that he's going to get fewer yards because he's splitting with Vidal. I think that's going to keep him fresher. I think that's going to keep him a really viable option in the second half. And same thing with Vidal. If you can give these guys some break, let them get into a rhythm early, hand the ball off a lot early so that they both have opportunities to get into a rhythm. Justin Herbert's hand is hurt. They don't want to pass the ball. The Eagles' run defense isn't great. This is a big opportunity for Omarion Hampton. This is a big opportunity for Kamani Vidal. There's going to be a lot of handoffs to go around, is what my prediction would be. So this is the 1-2 punch that Greg Roman has been looking for. To me, these are both the running backs of the future. I love that they both came from the draft. That just makes me really happy. It comes just in time for Herbert to not be able to go under center, and I understand that is going to affect the run game. But look what Kamani Vidal did anyways. If Kamani Vidal can do it, I do believe that Omarion Hampton can do it, because ultimately I think Hampton has the higher ceiling as a running back, although I am blown away at Kamani Vidal as well. Trey Lance will be worked in on those short yardage situations, so I do think that will improve the viability on, third and short, fourth and short, goal line situations to be able to run under center. And I think that will make the running backs a little bit better. And it's not clear how long Herbert's hand is going to limit him. We don't know, what does it look like after surgery, right? And they play on Monday. He has a little bit more time to prepare. But what does this look like, against the Eagles? But what about the following week against the Chiefs? I think at that point, Hampton's still going to have a big role, but it remains to be seen, what the passing rushing split is going to be. But this next week, they're going to want to run the ball a lot. It worked well against the Raiders. Vidal has a lot of momentum. Hampton is back. You have so many options, even if you can't go under center. And there's also a chance that you can go under center depending on how this surgery went. So don't underestimate Justin Herbert's toughness. But Chargers fans have a lot to be excited about. With Omarion Hampton coming back before his injury, he only played in 5 games. Okay, only 5 games. And we saw him look a little uncomfortable, make a lot of rookie mistakes. Well, now he's been around the game a little bit longer. He's averaged 4.8 yards per carry, tied for 12th in the league. He averaged 62.8 yards per game, 17th in the league. I think it's very likely that he surpasses his average in this next upcoming game just because of how many handoffs that there should be. And he always breaks 1 or 2 big ones. It took him a couple games to get there, but he broke a 54-yard run against the Giants, who had so many opportunities to take him down and weren't able to. And there was that play where Justin Herbert looks like, oh, I should push him forward. I should run into him, act like a lineman. And then he's like, well, he's going down, whatever. And then he runs for another, 10 yards before the next guy has to try to tackle him. And that was all in 5 games. That's him at his rawest. He is going to get better after that. And the videos of him in practice, he looks good. He looks athletic. He looks ready. Remember how nervous he seemed? Isn't it inevitable that he plays better going forward? I don't know. To me, all of his mistakes are fixable. There are things that coaches can work with. He has had time to watch the film and get comfortable, and also to learn from what Kamani Vidal has been able to do behind these tackles. And it's also worth noting that the Chargers have kind of figured out their left tackle situation, which has opened up running on the left side. You have Zion on that side, and he is their premier run blocker. And, Mekhi Becton has not been good in pass protection whatsoever. He has been okay in run blocking. And so you now have all these options. I hate to say it, but Bradley Boseman looked good last week. He didn't look amazing, but if the offensive line can put together this kind of, competent showing going forward, I think this could be a really big Omarion Hampton week. So, look, Greg Roman's been under fire with this fan base since he was hired. We were all skeptical of the hire. He's had the same issues everywhere he's been. Having 2 great running backs is such a huge opportunity for him to make a strong case for himself going forward with this fan base, because that's something he needs to succeed. And I think he has 2 running backs who are good at blocking, good at pass protection, and really good after contact, which can make up for a lot of the offensive line struggles. And the offensive line looks like it's starting to figure some things out. If Greg Roman plays his cards right, this could turn into the best running back duo in Chargers history. That is saying something. It really is. Chargers have had some incredible running backs, and these guys are the future. Imagine Justin Herbert with a run game. Remember that? Imagine Justin Herbert with a run game. Well, let's see it. We're going to get into their left tackle struggles and what it's looking like after, trading for Trevor Penning, trying Jamari Sawyer. What does this offensive line look like? And the Chargers traded for Trevor Penning. They traded for Austin Deculus way back at the beginning of the season. Neither looked good. Obviously, kind of hard to hold that against Trevor Penning because he had so little time with the team that we can hardly blame him. I do think it makes sense to have him as a depth piece. It cost the Chargers barely anything to get him, and Jamari Sawyer had been the depth option at guard, and he was performing abysmally. Obviously, him being at guard kept Foster Sarell off the field a little bit longer, but, guys were getting hurt, and so everyone was playing everywhere, and at left tackle, he looks better. He is a significantly better left tackle than he is a guard. I remember in the preseason they talked about he's dropped a lot of weight. He can move a little bit better. I think that might have made him a worse guard, but I think it made him a better tackle. He looks more athletic, and I think there's been frustration with the Chargers fans just because, like, you're telling me you had all these left tackle struggles, and the answer was already on your roster, right? And it sucks to trade any draft capital if the answer is there. I do think they still needed to because everyone on this offensive line has been hurt at some point, especially the tackles. It is hard for them to stay together and they need depth. And I think Trevor Penning is probably their best depth option. That frustration is still valid, right? I hear you. It shouldn't have taken until November. I think it reflects poorly on Mike Devlin and Greg Roman that it took until November to kind of figure it out. It's worth noting, though, we have a small sample size of what Jamari Sawyer has done, right? We have a small sample size. It's just against the Raiders. And other than Max Crosby, they don't have amazing pass rush. But what we saw was really good. He went up against Max Crosby a few times. He didn't panic. I thought he timed his punches well. maintained a solid base. He plays relatively safe. He doesn't overreact to initial movements from edge rushers, so he's a little bit better against those faster guys than we've seen anyone be, and he's strong enough to hold off a lot of the bull rushes. Now, would he hold up against a Khalil Mack kind of guy? Probably not, right? But, we didn't really see Max Crosby do a speed to power thing, so, that remains to be seen. But his run blocking wasn't amazing. He had some great moments. He sealed the edge excellently. In that Kamani Vidal touchdown run, the blocking on that run was incredible. Trey Harris, if you haven't seen it, he blocks one Raider into another and takes two guys out, as he often does. But yeah, this is an upgrade at left tackle. This is the best left tackle play we have seen since Joe Alt was out. And it sounds like Harbaugh agrees. It sounds like, injuries aside, this is going to be the arrangement going forward. That's something Jim Harbaugh talked about in the bye. He was looking for stability. He was looking for, what can we expect from the offensive line going forward? Let's try to find a through line, right? And I think Jamari Sawyer can be that through line, especially, playing next to Zion, with Zion being a good run blocker and, holding up in pass protection. And now Sawyer is holding up in pass protection. The left side of the offensive line is stabilizing. And I think that makes a big difference. I don't think they're amazing, but I think they're stabilizing. Now, the problem is we can't really put injuries aside with this offensive line, right? We can't. All of them have been injured before. And the problem with that is that means the stability isn't very solid. Mekhi Becton has been the worst in that regard. He's only played, I think, 3 full games, and he seems to think that's because they have him on too short of a leash. Like, this team, he seems to think that they should allow him to play through injuries more, and Harbaugh's kind of like, well, if you're limping, I'm going to take you out. And you can't really blame Harbaugh for that when, they're looking to compete in the playoffs. Their hardest games are at the end of the season. They have a tough stretch coming up. Yeah, we don't need Mekhi Becton out there earlier in the season. We need him to be really healthy after the bye. To me, that's probably what the logic is. But Mekhi Becton, he's a competitor. He wants to be out there. I do question how smart it was of him to, go so public with that when he definitely didn't need to. I think his chances of getting re-signed by the Chargers are 0. And maybe that's what he wants. Maybe he'll be back with the Eagles last year and he'll, have a career year for the 6 games that he's out there, or whatever it is, right? I think that's the direction that it's trending. If Becton goes down, what does the line look like? Is it Trevor Penning come in and play guard? Is Trevor Penning going to move to left tackle and then Sawyer plays guard? Is Foster Sorrell on the field? That doesn't feel good, right? And so this newfound stability, it's not very stable, right? It can be the plan going forward, and I think it's important that they come out of the bye with a plan like that. But how confident are we in that? I'm not very confident in that. I don't understand. Is Penning just a backup for Trey Pipkins, who has been playing pretty poorly, especially in the pass game, and who has also been hurt this season? Everyone's been hurt. So any stability is kind of temporary. That doesn't mean that it's not an upgrade, right? And I don't think that this is solved. But Harbaugh has found the clarity that he was looking for the first team offensive line. And that's what they have. So injuries aside, Jamari Sawyer will be playing left tackle over anyone else this year. It's not perfect, and it's worth noting he got a lot of help. He got a lot of chips, a lot of blocks, and we've seen how much these Chargers running backs assist in pass protection. So that's something worth keeping in mind, especially because in the future, I imagine some of those blocks are going to have to go to Trey Pipkins' side. He hasn't been playing well this year. I don't know how in the beginning of the year he was able to look so good, but it hasn't been there. So I think the Chargers inevitably are going to have to move some of that help to the right side. And I don't know how Jamari Sawyer holds up then, but I do have more confidence in him holding up than Trey Pipkins. And so I think we're going to see him on an island a little bit more. We did see him on an island a few times versus Max Crosby, and he did hold up. So that's a good sign. His pass blocking is good enough that if Herbert goes down again, it's unlikely to be Sawyer's fault, So I think moving forward, the left tackle position, which is the most important position on the offensive line, is stable. That's a really good thing, and I would say that is the bare minimum, that they meet the threshold for a team competing to get a playoff spot, right? That They have finally achieved, okay, this offensive line is good enough to get us into the playoffs because everything else around it is so good. And that is genuinely a big step up for the Chargers. Doesn't mean I think it holds up against the Texans or against the Broncos, but there's still time to prepare for that. There's still time for Greg Roman to tweak the quick game, and, Hampton is back. There's a lot of other things to be excited about. Man, if we had Alton Slater, this would be a top 5 team in the league, man. It is what it is. Hey, same record as the Colts. All right, that's all for me. Thanks for being here. Please like and subscribe. Really appreciate those who do, and I'll be back later in this week to preview the upcoming game.